And so that's the eccentric rod, or the rod that works the valve. That's the piston rod. There's a big massive gate on there that runs into that barrel that we've just pushed off. If I was to get that, the big end nuts off now, we would lift the con rod out, and I'll just hope the crank is in good condition. All this is nice. Definitely hasn't been to bits because there's no damage anyway. The eccentric sees solid on the crankshaft, which you would expect. It's been underwater. I'd gasket off without damaging it, just to see having to make one. It's beautifully put together, this. I think up to now the worst part's the oil pump. The oil pump for the steam cylinder. Right, we've got access to the big end now. It had a split pin through, there's no chance of that coming out. But if we can get these double nuts off, it would be really nice to get the con rod out. So it's got a nut and then a castellator check nut with a split pin in. The modern engines have nothing. Engines doing 7,000 RPM, they've just got a bolt tightened in. I really need to tidy up, but I'm sort of on a roll now. I don't want to stop. Well, one thing was certain, the guy that put that on would be here now. It's nice to think that that crank would move now, which it does a little bit, not much but a little bit. That cross shaft will be stopping any further movement. Right, we can get this other nut off, that one down there. Not going to be easy at all. Be better from the other side. It's not going to turn anymore until we get the cross shaft out. Nothing at all left of the split pin now. A bit of proper spanner abuse for the purists. Oh. I'm really hoping that this bearing's in good condition and the crankshaft's in good condition, otherwise we're into a hiding for nothing. I think it will be, I hope it will be. I did a old compressor up a while ago. The compressor, that was a vacuum pump, and that was similar to this with 2 inspection holes, but that was just a splash fed job. It wasn't a pressure lubricated thing. So remains of the split pin, making it tight. Right, I've managed to get the nuts off the other end as well, so now hopefully we can get this big end bearing apart and have a look at it. I've put 2 pot marks on there, in one on the crank, just so I know which way it goes back together. It probably is marked anyway, underneath all the rust and crud. So we'll basically have a little exploratory poke about. That's the bolt out for the other half of the bearing. The movement there. I can see the crankshaft, and the crankshaft's absolutely beautiful. Right, so it's got a split bearing, shell bearing, white metal bearing, which is absolutely mint. Crank's beautiful, so this should be it is pressure fed as well. That's the oil hole there. So now we're able to get the con rod out. There it is in all its glory. It's even got an oil feed up to the little end bearing. That's an oil pipe there. This is quality stuff, this. And that crank appears to be yeah, it's mint. It's got a little water mark on it, but it's big. It must be 1.5 inches across that. We're certainly getting into it now. I think the next thing's this cross shaft. Right, the next thing is to get that cross shaft out. We'll drill this brass plug out, probably drill it and put some threads in, pull the brass plug out, then we can get a punch in to knock the shaft out. Some 6mm threads into that. In fact, it'll just dig out. It's just a small, just a thin plate. It should just flick out of there. But not like that, John. Come on. Give in, you bastard. Could be screwed in, but I don't think it. No. It's just sort of... I'm making it worse, not better. Bastard. bigger bastard. Right, John. Right, that's it out, and it is just a hole so you can get a punch in to punch that shaft out. Naturally it's full of water. Right, so this is what we're after next. I've got a grub spotter there. Another one snapped off in there. I think the shaft will have to go out that way. I'm not quite sure how it's keyed onto that. Because that's a cam that works that little oil pump. I'm going to put a drill in there and drill out the remains of any little Allen bolt, little set screw. That's hard, that. Not quite sure what's going on there. I do an exploratory solid. Right, so I want to put a bit of warmth on things here. Quite sure what's going on with that. I don't think it'll have a pin going through it. I don't think, but I don't really know. I think that's just the end of the grub screw. That one's obviously back. Don't know. You may be able to get the crankshaft to turn round with that gear. The gear might move on that shaft now. You never know, the look. The crank's moving, but it's not. It's doing a great lot. Look at me, I think that's good. It is. Yep, it's actually good. definitely good. Well, it was. Oops. Right, it stopped for some reason. Any damage I do on the end of that shaft I'll have to repair, or you can make a new shaft. It's like that on. The problem, it's gears and castings where the problem arises. Smaller diameter punch just in case something's strange is happening up there. Definitely good now. Definitely good. Actually a key on there that keys into that little key there that keys into the little cam for the oil pump. So now, with a bit of luck, this should sort of come apart. We've got movement there now. That should lift out the mesh now. I think. I can't turn the crank any more than that because the eccentric seized. But it's definitely moving. There we go. And that's the sort of part that will be an absolute nightmare to have to replicate. Nothing's impossible, but there's no wear on this anywhere. That's a nice bit, that. Right then, I wonder now if this whole end will come off. That's the oil pump plunger, which will be seized in now, I would expect. Not quite sure what that screw there does. So copper pipe feeds this main bearing. It's also attached to the front, but it should come far enough so that I can disconnect it from the front once I get this out of here. Right, so that's out from there. Now hopefully this whole back housing should come out. Big brass bush in there. So that's obviously that is the bearing, that big brass bush, and that main bearing journal is in good condition. If I had the back journal off, I try and keep these gaskets as well. You can't exactly go to Halifax and buy some. Right, so we're getting into it now. There's just this back journal. I don't know if the crank will, what happens with this center, we'll find out. I'm going to try and get the back cover off now. It's a lot lighter now. Let's see what holds all this together. Big screws by the look of it, big flathead screws. Yeah, there's four big screws in there. An impact driver would be the ideal way for them, but I haven't got one here. A little exploratory tap with a punch. They might move. If they don't, we'll have to think of something else. Yep, gone. One more at the bottom. Right, that's yours loosened off. Right, now hopefully this housing here will come up as well as the rear one did. Now we have to get a decent purchase on it. A little bit of warmth and not going to hurt anything. God, it's a dirty bastard thing. A little bit of warmth around that crankcase just to swell things up a little bit. I must buy myself a new lighter. I put one little pop lock just at the top. Right, we'll try again. Hopefully this time it will release its whirl. Right. Oh, look at that come off that crankshaft. That was almost sexual, that. The leather seal in the end of there. That's the oil feed of that bearing. I'm certainly getting there now. Copper pipe and there will have to come out, an oil feed pipe. That dipstick will have to come out. And then we'll see about getting the crankshaft out of it. This is the biggest hole. Right.